What we've stopped here to look at is the bottom of this old hearth or earth oven. And like a lot of Indigenous peoples around the world in general, a lot of our old people prefer to cook their main meat underground in these earth ovens. I'm telling you that this is the bottom of the earth oven because in the last couple of 100 years we've lost at least a metre of topsoil. And that's because at the time of English occupation on this continent, there was a very thin layer called duricrust which was holding all of the topsoil together. Now, of course, native animals like emu and kangaroo have got nice soft pads on the bottom of their feet, so they never disturb that layer of duricrust. But then, of course, we introduce hard-hooved animals, cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, etc. They very quickly broke up that layer of duricrust, and the prevalent southwesterly winds blowing up from the Southern Ocean and Antarctica then shifted billions of tonnes of topsoil, filling all the creeks up with silt in the process. So let's pretend we're going to cook an emu and a kangaroo using this traditional cooking method. What I do is dig a hole about 1 metre long, about ½ a metre wide and about 1 metre deep. In the bottom of that hole, the first thing I'm going to do is light a fire and try and establish a nice hot layer of coals. Then I want to put in some layers of heat retainers. Local sandstone is no good as a heat retainer because when sandstone heats up, it cracks and splits. So instead, our old people would collect these pieces of termite nest or white ant's nest. We throw the pieces of termite nest in on top of the hot layer of red coals. It doesn't take long for them to start glowing red hot. And then we're ready to put in our next layer, which is a layer of fresh gum leaf branches. They must be fresh because then they won't burn, and by being fresh they will also produce a lot of smoke, which will assist in the cooking process. So to prepare the animals, we don't bother skinning them. All we do is cut an incision down the animal's stomach, remove all of those major organs, and then go to the creek bed and collect native lemongrass. Handfuls of native lemongrass are then stuffed into that empty stomach cavity. And of course the native lemongrass will give the meat a lovely lemony flavour. Then we sew up that incision with little sharp wooden sticks and pin that incision back together. Then the animals get put in the hole. And the only difference between emu and kangaroo when we put them in the hole is that we always deliberately leave the emu's head sitting out of the hole at ground level. And I'll come back to why we do that in a moment. So our animals are now in place. The very last thing we need to do is go and cut some bark from the nearby river red gum trees and bring that bark back and use it as a lid on top of our earth oven. All the soil that we've dug out of the ground is then used to completely cover that lid so that no smoke or heat can escape whatsoever, and then just walk away and leave it. And it'll take on average somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 hours to cook a couple of animals using this process. There's always going to be a slight variation in cooking time. It's going to depend on how well you've prepared your base layer of coals. It's going to depend on how many pieces of heat retainer you've put in, and it's even going to depend on the type of firewood that you're using. Traditionally, our old people always preferred to burn mulga wood because mulga burns far more slowly and intensely, produces much less smoke, and it also means that the next morning when you wake up, there's more likelihood of live embers being left in the fireplace. So this is the best bit of what I'm about to tell you, because what our old people worked out is once that meat cooks all the way through to the centre, and remember we've already stuffed the lemongrass into that stomach cavity, that lemongrass will start to burn. And when the lemongrass starts to burn, that will cause smoke to come out of the emu's mouth at ground level. So when there's smoke coming out of the emu's mouth, you know your meat's ready.